Hey everybody, today we're going to learn about writing an equation and a formula that you'll use a lot in Algebra 1. So in the first blank I want to go ahead and I want you to write the equation we're going to be using. It's y equals mx plus b. Each of these variables, remember a variable is a letter that represents an unknown value. In this equation, the m is going to represent something called the slope that we're about to introduce you to. The m is going to represent the slope, and the b represents the y-intercept. Y-intercept, intercept kind of sounds like intersection. The y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. The y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. That is very, very important. Okay? Where the line crosses the y-axis. So that we can find the slope, this is what we need to do. To find the slope, it's also called the common difference, okay, or rate of change. We're going to make an XY table. We're going to make an XY table, all right? And the X, we're going to have the X starting with 0, and then we're going to follow it in consecutive order. Okay? So if you look at our table, let's make sure that our table follows this criteria. Does the X start with 0? Yeah, it does. Good. And let's see if it goes in consecutive order. Okay, consecutive means in order, numerical order, one after the other. So X is 0, then 1, then 2, then 3. Does that start with 0? Yes. Does it go in consecutive order? Good. So now we're going to look at something else. We're going to find the rate of change in the y values. And the rate of change, guys, is also called the slope. So we're going to look at our table and determine what our rate of change is. In our y values, remember, we're going to be looking at this y. So to 2 to 5, I add 3. From 5 to 8, how do we get from 5 to 8? Yeah, we add 3. From 9 to 11, 8 to 11, I mean. How do we get from 8 to 11? Add 3. So guess what our rate of change or our slope is? 3. So if we're given a table, it's pretty easy to determine the rate of change. Okay? So let's look at step 3. Step 3 says to determine the blank or the starting number. Okay? The starting number is right here. Okay? That is called the y-intercept. That's the y-intercept. So we need to determine the value of y when x is equal to 0. I know that sounds confusing, but we're going to practice in a minute, so don't get discouraged. What we have to do to determine the y-intercept is we have to look at the value of y when x is 0. So in this example, we can look at the table and see that if x is 0, what is our y value? 2. So that means that our y-intercept is 2. Okay? So now we can substitute. Substitute means plug it in, plug it in. Woo! So we need to substitute the values in for m. And remember that m is the slope. And b, what was b? Yes, it's the y-intercept. Y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So our equation is y equals mx plus b. Our equation is y equals mx plus b. So what was our y-intercept in this problem? Our y-intercept in this problem is 2. So we know at the back end of our equation, since that's where the intercept goes, it's going to be a 2 there. We know we keep our x. And n stands for our slope, or rate of change. The rate of change in this problem is 3. So our slope is 3. So this equation that I wrote right here matches this table. These are equivalent tables to this equivalent graph.